Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, welcome to my channel. This is Back in Papa. Yeah, today we'll be talking about how to use RecyclerViews to create a list and render on our activity. And today I'll be using Android Studio with Kotlin to develop this sample application. Yeah, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a new project, and let's say we name it. Let's see. So yeah, it takes us to this templates page, and we are going to use the fragment plus view model, which has everything set up for us using the fragment. So when we click on next, it takes us to the page where we have to rename our project. So one thing I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to name my project recycle now. So basically, yeah, and again, we'll be using Kotlin as I've stated, and our minimum SDK is 6.0. That means our project is going to run perfectly from devices ranging from Android 6.0 upward. So it means it covers about 84.9% of devices. So the next thing you do is to click on finish. So yeah, we have our Android Studio set up and also build the project using Gradle. Now we have our project set. Yeah, one of the first things we're going to be doing is to set in the Gradle script for the build for the app some features we'll be using because in this project we'll be using the data binding or the view binding method instead of the normal method by which you find the view by the ID. So we'll be using a build feature, even though we are going to be using two, the view binding and data binding. So we have to set this configuration in our build.gradle for the app so that the necessary tools can be populated into the project. So yes, so right inside this Android section, you are going to create our build. We are going to make the build feature for the view binding available. So say build features, I'll say the view binding, set it to true. I'll say data binding, I'll set it to true. So this allows us to be able to use both the data binding and the view binding feature in our application. So the next thing we're going to do is to build this application by clicking on this hammer button. Yes, so it actually generates the necessary methods, classes, and tools that are required for data binding and view binding. So this can take some time of your work to get done. Okay, so we have our project built. We have it ready now to work on. So yeah, so the next thing we're going to do now, I hope yours is working fine too. So the next thing we're going to do now is to go into the main fragment.kt, the Kotlin class fragment, holding the Kotlin class holding the main fragment XML, and making it visible to the UI. So the first thing for us is to initiate a variable that holds the binding for the fragment. So what we do is you say private class, private as a class, let's init var are, and we'll say binding, then we hook it up to type of main fragment binding. Yeah, sure. So we have a variable set here. So now here, all we are going to be returning is the binding of every asset in what they call it in this project. So I'm going to remove this, because basically what this does is it makes the main fragment visible to this layer. So we won't be using it like this anymore. We're going to change the way it works. So one thing we're going to do is you say binding equals the main fragment binding, then we inflate, passing the inflator value. This makes the main fragment XML UI available to to the screen. Then after inflating, we pass in the container variable, container state. Alright, so now at this point our binding is available to the screen, but not fully available. Yeah, we're going to set false as a third parameter, so it's not going to attach itself to the parent. Then next thing is for us to return the roots of this binding. So this is where at this point the UI is displayed to the screen. That is done. So yes, now we are going to go back to the main fragment XML, and we are going to add our RecyclerView what they call it, component or view to the UI. So we have a text view already in this main fragment XML. So what we are going to do is to delete this. Yes, we have it deleted. Now we are going to we are going to look for the main fragment on what they call it, on the palette. Yeah, we are going to look for the RecyclerView. So you're going to drag the RecyclerView right on the screen, which will bring it to the screen. Exactly. So one thing we could do is to set the constraint width to the top, right, left, and bottom. So by clicking on this, on the dot icon at the right, top, left, bottom, we have them hooked to the parent border. Then when that thing is for us to set the item width to 0 to ensure it maintains a matched parent kind of width and height, so we don't tend to have a gap or space around it. Yes. So with that being done, also we have to set the ID of our RecyclerView to, let's say, list RecyclerView. So we have that set. So with that being done, we'll go back to our main fragment.kotlin and initialize this RecyclerView. So we are going to be doing two things. We are going to be setting what they call it, the layout type for this for the list, and also we are going to be setting up the adapter, because basically what the adapter is doing is to pass in data into the view holder, then render it on the fragment on the RecyclerView screen. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I would say binding.RecyclerView, list RecyclerView, first dot layout manager. We are going to be passing the linear layout manager, so meaning the way our list is going to be rendered is going to be rendered using the linear layout format. So, and basically we are going to ensure that this what we call linear layout method is required. So next thing we're going to do is to also set up the adapter, which we will do right away. Binding.list RecyclerView.adapter equals to let's say list RecyclerAdapter. Well, this is a class we are here to create, so we are going to create a class right away with alt enter. So we are separate. So we have this class created now. So this is where we are going to be performing all the logics that handles the display and rendering of list items on the UI. Okay, so yes, so the next thing we're going to do is to so once this is done, now we're also going to create another class, and what this class is going to do is going to be hooking up, it's going to be binding to a new what they call it, it's going to be binding to a new UI which will contain it should serve as the view holder for each item in a list. So the name of the class is going to be let's say list view holder. So once this is created, then the last thing we're going to create for now is going to be the layout for the view holder. So we're going to call it list view holder. Then we are going to set its root element to linear layouts, and this is done. So we are going to need two text buttons, and let's say two text view buttons. I say buttons, two text views. So the first one is going to be called items ID or item ID. So it takes renders the number, the item position number. Then we ensure that the width is it's both the width and the height is matched with wrap content. And also we ensure that there's a 16 dp padding around to at least push it away from the wall or from the border of the app. So one thing we can do is to get into the layouts. So we get the layout margin and give it a margin of, let's say, 16 dp. I think that's okay for now. Then we'll do the same thing for what they call it for the second text view. The margin is going to, alright, so give it a 16 dp margin, and that's that. Then we go back to the ID. You set the ID to item name. Let's call it item name. Yes, refactor. That sets the ID. Then also we're going to change it from match parent to wrap content. Remember, the orientation of this linear layout is it's in vertical. So we can change it in the attribute, but I feel like going to the code to change it here. So you see the orientation is vertical here. So one thing we can do is to change it to horizontal. Sorry, my bad. To horizontal. So meaning the two text view are going to be aligning in an horizontal kind of direction, side by side. So if I go back to design, we have these two text view lined up side by side. So one thing I'm going to do is to remove all the placeholder text on this text view. We don't need them. Then also in this one, I think so. We don't need them. So also this linear layout should also be having it must also the height must wrap parent. It must wrap the content. Not parent. So I'll explain to you. I'll come back and explain this once we run the application. So the width should match parent, so it could take the whole width length at 100%. So after this is done, we go back to the list view holder. Go out to the list view holder, and set up the binding to this what do you call it, to the new UI. That's the list view holder. The list view holder binding. One of the issues we are going to have is before we proceed into this thing, I think we have to build this project to generate just come up with a lot of error. Okay, so not the RecyclerView. No. Okay. Okay, this is RecyclerView adapter. Alright, cool. So we have it here. Okay, yeah. So it shows us an error unresolved RecyclerView. So yeah, back to the list view that we have our main, not the main, we have the list view that binding. So we have our binding generated now for this UI, the list for this UI, the list view holder. So I will explain to you right what this class will be doing in a moment. Where is it? Yeah. Once I'm done with this, then it's going to be extending the recycler. It's going to be extending RecyclerView holder. Let me see that's RecyclerView holder. It's going to be extending this. So with that done, I think what else really means. So here we're going to pass in the root binding here. So that will be binding.root. So it's more like rendering the. So what now? So basically this class, the list view holder.kotlin file, what it does is it creates it attaches or it creates or it sets this UI, the list view UI, list view holder, which is going to be having the list of items of each item. It's going to be carrying each item. So it's actually going to set it here. That is what this list recycler adapter is going to be using. It's going to be putting its different data into it, and it's going to be rendering this as a UI on the main fragment. So we'll see that in a bit as we go. So now we are done with hooking up or binding this UI, which contains two texts, the item number and the item name. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do now is go to the list recycler adapter, and here we are going to be passing in. We're not going to be passing in the RecyclerView again. We're going to be passing the view we just created. That's the list view holder. So here we have our recycle. We have to import our RecyclerView. Then yeah, so now we have another error, and this error actually is trying to explain to us. Let's see. It says it's not abstract and does not implement the abstract base member. So what it's saying that there are some methods that needs to be implemented, because we need the onCreate, onBind, and the get item counts. So I click on OK. We have 3 different methods being populated, or functions populated for us. So basically, this one keeps track of the number of items in the array. This one actually sets those data into the view holder, and also this keeps track of the view holder. So the first thing we're going to do is to create an array of items. So let's say food array. So basically we are going to keep a track of different kind of food. So I'm going to be using the array of to create our array. So let's say we have rice, we have say a pie. Well, I don't know if a pie is a food. Yeah, but I know spaghetti. Alright. So one more. What else? Original food we have. Sorry, I don't know what I'm taking off. Something called potato. Okay, cool. So we have like this 4 different items in this array. So the first thing we're going to do is to return the size of this array. So this function keeps track of how many items are in this array. So just do return food array dot size, so it just returns that for us. And the next thing for us is to hook up each part of this to the view order item. So the first one we're going to be using is the order. Now if you look at this order, this is like more like a parameter, which because now the list view that has been passed into this place. And don't forget the list, this is the list view order here, which is also binding this XML to it. So if you click on it, don't forget we have two different views, the two text views, one to keep track of the number of the item and the other to keep track of the name of the item. So if you come back to this list recycler adapter, you see we have this order. Don't forget we are passing in this UI, the list view order, to it. When you have a dot binding, so we want to check out, we want to use one of the binding first, which is the item number dot. We have this is the item ID we set it as that's the first one. If you come back here and you click on the first one, which is the item ID. So the text, now we want to pass in the position of the data in the array to this place. We say equals to what? We say the position plus 1. So it's going to be taking that position. Like, so if the position here is 0 plus 1 will give us 1, so we have it, because if you are listing an item, we shouldn't be having it in the order of an array but in the order of numerics minus 0. But now we have an error, meaning we have to convert, because now this text is a string, we have to convert this number or this integer into a string. So we use the method called to string. The next thing we are going to also come to is the second text view, which displays the item itself. So we access the binding and check the item name dot text equals to the food array. They will pass in the position. So the position is 0, it displays which food array is on position 0 here. So with that being done, at this point here, we are going to keep track of the list view order. So we say binding equals to list view order dot inflate. Oh, the list view order binding dot inflate. This time around we are going to be inflating the layout, so it's going to be rendering the layout now to the screen. This is where it's going to be happening. From where? We are doing it from the parent dot. By the way, it's going to be happening from the parent. Yeah, that's from the list view order parent. The next thing we're going to do is to set here the parent and also set attaching to parent to false. So it's not going to attach it to parent, it's going to be independent on its own. The next thing is to return the list view order and pass in the binding. Remember, here we had to pass in the binding dot root. So we have that done. What remains? Yeah, so I think that's all fixed. So that's that on everything. So if we tend to do I have a device for me to push my work? Let me see. How is it gonna work? Well, I'm going to try and see if it's going to work. I'm not sure. So I'm trying to see. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see this pixel 30. Maybe the manager. So I don't think 7.6 gig. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to build this application. Let's see what comes up with this. This is going to be fucking small.